JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Alright, beautiful people, this week we have a short and fun video coming off that horrible Attack on Titan sequel. Today we're gonna talk about the peak of fiction, maybe on par with One Piece, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, a series that has low-key changed my life forever. I finally finished the anime and I loved it, but today we have to determine which part from 1 to 6 is my favorite, and we're going to do this with the ultimate JoJo's ranking. So this is our scoring system for today. We'll be ranking the story for each part, and then we have 3 flash rankings for each JoJo, JoBro, and villain. Scoring third and second gives the part 1 point, and scoring first gives them 2 points. So let's begin this story ranking with the weakest part. Part 1, Phantom Blood. I honestly hope this isn't a surprise to anyone because there's no denying that part 1 is just the worst part, even though I don't consider it to be actually bad. I think it's very noticeable that Araki's style and ideas were still pretty half-baked, for me at least, and I think part 1 is at its strongest when it's exploring the relationship between Jonathan and Dio and all that, but everything in the middle is just very boring, and like I said, very underdeveloped for the bizarre series that JoJo's is supposed to be. Of course, I'm keeping in mind that part 1 came out in the 80s, and a lot of the modern concepts that we enjoy from anime were first shown in later parts of JoJo's, but the fact that we are comparing this part to later parts of JoJo's makes me automatically rank it at 6. We continue with the part that let me down, honestly. Part 2, Battle Tendency. Now, part 2 is actually great. It's the first part that really felt bizarre to me. The style is great, the humor almost always made me laugh, in big part thanks to Joseph Joestar, who is a significant upgrade from Jonathan in my opinion. I tend to like goofy characters more than the strong silent type, which is literally the definition of what Jonathan was. On top of that, the ensemble of characters was pretty good. The concept of Hamon was a little bit more developed than last time, a little bit more engaging, and overall it was a little cool adventure, but I cannot rate it on top of any other JoJo parts because of the absence of stands, which is like my new favorite power system. And when I say it let me down, I mean it in the way that before I really considered watching JoJo's, I would see or hear JoJo's Part 2 get really hyped up as the best part of JoJo's, which might be true for you, and that's okay, but I think the anticipation made me maybe expect a little more than what I got. But I still had a great time, and I think Part 2 is really fun. Standing at number 4, we have the definitive part of JoJo's that made me a JoJo's fan. Part 3, Stardust Crusaders. Part 3 is awesome. It's iconic, it's fresh, it's funny. In my opinion, Araki's style is not only defined but perfected for what Part 3 wanted to be, which is basically just really buff dudes in really stupid fights, and it's very fun. I love stands, but like most concepts in JoJo's, I feel like they were introduced in Part 3 but they get refined in later parts. But the fact that Part 3 is the origin of stands is really important in my opinion. Now in terms of story, I do feel like this part is lacking a little bit, especially when compared to later parts, and I honestly feel like it was heavily carried by the magnificent ensemble of characters and the originality of stands, which are really cool. But different from parts 1 and 2, I think Part 3 has incredible hype moments that I didn't get in previous parts, like the arc of the Crusaders against the first Darby, or Jotaro throwing a dog to a blind man. It's peak. I do wish Jotaro was a more entertaining character. I was honestly having more fun when Polnareff was on screen or when it was a Polnareff episode, because Jotaro is just also the definition of strong and stoic and very cool, but that's not enough for me. Like, he was very absent in his own part. So I'm just going to go ahead and lock part 3 in the 4th spot for the story ranking. Now, competing for the first point, I have a part that in my opinion is underrated as fuck. Before we continue, let me tell you that the reason that I'm making this video short and sweet this week is because I am inventing a new format for this platform, and I am going to be watching the entirety of Evangelion in one day. All 26 episodes, all 4 main movies, it all equals to like 18 hours. I know you don't want to miss me trying and succeeding this superhuman challenge, so be sure to subscribe to Warland, and I'll see you there next week. Back to the video. Part 6, Stone Ocean. Okay, so I lied at the beginning of this video because I am not done watching Stone Ocean. I still have like 10 or 12 episodes left, but it's so good. In a way, Part 6 feels to me like a better attempt at Part 3's story, but with a more interesting main character with a more present villain, and with better developed stands. I swear to all of you that I will properly rate part 6, 7, 8, and 9 once I finally catch up to all of that after I finish Evangelion, but I honestly feel very confident placing part 6 at number 3. Going for another point and going for spot number 2 in the story ranking is the most pleasant surprise that I've had with anime in a really long time. Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable. JoJo's Part 4 was majestic. It was so good that it's making me consider getting into some more slice of lifey stuff. If you have any good recommendations, please write them down in the comments. I loved going back to a less serious JoJo after Jotaro, and how much I loved Joseph in Part 2. I say this part surprised me because a friend of mine, before I got into JoJo's, they told me they dropped the series when they started Part 4 and they hated Josuke and they hated the story. And honestly, I understand that because Part 4 is like the flip between buff dudes to twinks. But once you get used to the yellow sky and you understand that this is not the same pace as Part 3, JoJo's Part 4 becomes the best thing ever. Now, story-wise, this part is of course getting heavily carried by everything that followed after the introduction of Kira, because everything before that was just fluff and some people hated that, but I ate that shit up. So for me, the fact that this part is very much split into two keeps it from being number 1, but also the fact that it's competing against the tragic masterpiece that is Golden Wind, Il Vento Aureo. This part for me has without a doubt the best story in JoJo's 1 through 6. I was already pretty convinced of this, and then I watched that last episode with the Rolling Stone stand. That shit broke my heart. And then that last post-credit scene, to me it's also heartbreaking seeing these characters fight against the shit world that they live in an attempt to make it a better place, but it's also very inspiring and very epic. And also I really enjoy how the goals of the story were clearly laid out from the beginning of the story, different from part 4, which makes Il Vento Aureo feel like a much more rewarding journey in my opinion. Okay, this means that parts 1, 2, and 3 right now have 0 points, parts 4 and 6 have 1 point, and part 5 has 2 points. But this isn't determined yet because we have 3 more flash rankings to decide which is the best JoJo's part. So now let's rank JoJo's. All the JoJo's. Number 6, Jonathan Joestar. Bro's just too sweet. No fun, no real depth. Number 5, Jotaro Kujo. I know some of you gasped while sitting in the toilet watching this video, but like I said, bro is just too cool, like only cool, and was absent in his own part. Number 4, Giorno Giovanna. Amazing character, really cool stand, really intelligent, but in my opinion, he just got more boring as time went on, and he got outshone by other characters in terms of being fun and interesting. Number 3, Jolene Kujo for 1 point. Before watching part 6, I hadn't seen or heard the best things about Jolene, but in my opinion, it must have been sour incels or something hating on her for being a woman, because Jolene is goated. She's my girl. Number 2, for the first point of part 2, Joseph Joestar. The embodiment of fun, creativity, bro is just so goated. It made me a little sad to see him grow old in part 4, and it made me really sad to know that he had cheated on his wife. But thanks to that, we got our numero uno, the GOAT, Higashikata Josuke, also known as literally me. I love Josuke so much, and Crazy Diamond is like my favorite stand in the series. Josuke just makes me very happy, and I relate to him the most, and I would like to be like him the most out of all the JoJo's. That's my GOAT right there. Now, no part of JoJo's would be as good as they are if it wasn't for the characters that accompany JoJo on their bizarre adventures. So now it's time to rank the JoBros. Number 6, Robert E.O. Speedwagon. Listen, I appreciate the whole meme about glazing over Speedwagon, but bro just didn't win me over as much as other JoBros. Number 5, Hermes Costello. Again, with part 6, I can't really judge her to the full capacity because I am unaware if in future moments I am going to like her more or less. But right now I know that I like her more than Speedwagon, so she's getting put at number 5. Number 4, Nijimura Okoyasu. Now don't get me wrong, I love Okoyasu, but the truth is that the whole gimmick of him being stupid didn't really work for me, and his stand was just really underused for the really cool concept that it was. Still, I think he had a really good dynamic with Josuke, and he's a really fun character, so he gets put at number 4. Number 3, for 1 point, Caesar Cepoli. Caesar's relationship with Joseph and his whole use of Hamon are a real standout for me compared to other parts, but the truth is that we don't get as much of him as we do get of other JoBros, so number 3 is the best that I can give him. Number 2, Jean-Pierre Polnareff. I've seen some people consider Kakyoin the true JoBro from part 3, and I've seen some other people that did not like Polnareff whatsoever, but the truth for me is that I love Polnareff and I had so much fun with him. and that last scene of the Crusaders saying goodbye in the airport had me sobbing. Number 1, Bruno Bucciarati. For me, Bucciarati is the actual protagonist of part 5, and in that case, maybe Mista would be the JoBro, but I would still place him at number 1 because the ensemble of part 5 is just so goated. So part 1 has 0 points, parts 2 and 3 have 2 points, part 4 has 3 points, part 5 has 5 points, and part 6 has 2 points. Now it's time for us to end this and rank all the main villains in JoJo's. Number 6, Dio Brando. Dio for part 1, low-key a great villain, but he'll be in this list twice, so we need to give room to others. Numero 5, Cars. I really like the Pillar Man and all that, but Cars for me wasn't as exciting as Wamu or other villains in other parts. Number 4, Diavolo. I think Diavolo is a great villain as a representation of the shit world that the characters live in. I just wish we got more of him and less of Doppio, even though that whole thing about the split personality was really cool. Number 3, for 1 point, Father Pucci. Again, I can't fully judge him, but the fact that we started the story with such a clear present villain that is such a looming presence adds a lot of value for me, and his character design, not only for him but also for Whitesnake, are so badass. Number 2, Dio for 1 point. Extremely iconic, the definitive JoJo villain for sure. Bro's evil rippled through all the parts to Father Pucci in part 6 and the part 4 spin-off with Josuke and Whole Horse. I just wish that we got more of him because getting to him was such a pain in the ass, and then we just got a couple episodes of the figure that was Dio. And number 1 for 2 points, Yoshikage Kira. I don't care if he was introduced late into the story, Kira is such a great villain. Sometimes I was genuinely afraid that he would get away with being the monster that he was. And on top of that, Killer Queen is one of the coolest stands too. Okay people, that's the end. Let's check the scores. We have part 1 with 0 points, part 2 with 2 points, part 3 with 3 points, part 4 with 5 points, part 5 with 5 points as well, and part 6 with 3 points. Alright, so parts 4 and 5 are tied. Honestly, if someone came and told me that part 5 is the best part of JoJo's 1 through 6, maybe they're right. Maybe they would be right, I would not deny that, but I can also not deny what I feel in my heart, which is that JoJo's part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable, is my favorite part of JoJo's. With that said, I'll state it one more time. I love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I really think Araki is a genius. I am going to go finish part 6, which I am loving so far, and I'm really excited to read part 7, 8, and 9. I really want to know what all the hype for Steelboard Run is about, which is coming really soon in the US. And I'll get back to you with a final ranking once I catch up to part 9. So as always, it's been a pleasure having you here today. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss me watching Evangelion in a day and more cool videos to come very soon. Please let me know in the comments what's your favorite part of JoJo's and why, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.